Hi, I'm Damon Fontenot alongside the Oklahoman's Jake Trotter, and we are at Elldale Mitchell Park for a surprising reason, Jake. Today, Monday, earlier today, we found out that OU made the postseason. We had given them up for dead, and it didn't look likely when they did not win the Big 12 tournament. Turns out they make it in after all.
Well, I was planning on working on my tan today by the swimming pool. I didn't plan to be at Elldale Mitchell Park. You're right. It came as a surprise that OU made the NCAA regional. Actually, Coach Sonny Galloway had said all week that they felt like they had to win the tournament to get in. But the Sooners do squeak into the NCAA tournament, and they have a lot of momentum coming into the Tempe regional. Obviously, going 2-1 in the Big 12 tournament this past weekend.
They've done a lot of squeaking, Jake. They squeaked into the Big 12 tournament. They squeaked by some really good teams there, and now they squeak into the postseason. And once you get into the postseason, it's a brand new life. I mean, this is the third life of the season, and everyone starts pretty much even here. They got to go to Arizona, but everyone starts over right here.
One thing that I think that's going to help them is they've been on edge for 2 weeks because they've been playing for their lives essentially since midway through the Bedlam series just to make it to the Big 12 tournament. And playing with that kind of edge kind of makes you a little not lackadaisical, not tentative. And we saw that in the Big 12 tournament. They had a lot of edge in all three games because they knew they had to win. And they thought that they had to win to get to the regional. So I think that's going to help them this week in the fact that teams like Texas A&M we saw really didn't bring a lot of intensity to the tournament. That might be a fair word to say. Nebraska really didn't either. Another one of the top teams in the league because they knew that they had a regional probably locked up, hosting, for example. So I think that's going to be a huge advantage for OU. Another thing to keep an eye on, too, is Andrew Doyle is probably going to throw against Vanderbilt on Friday. What might be a blessing in disguise for the Sooners is the fact that they didn't make the Sunday Big 12 championship because now he has 10 days of rest heading into the Friday game with Vanderbilt, and he's coming off one of the best pitching performances by anyone in the Big 12 when he shut down A&M in the complete game.
I think a sense of urgency is really what you look at that OU played with throughout this last week. And just explain to viewers how they actually got into this, because they beat some top 10, top 25 teams in this last week to get in here. But it's the RPI, it's the stats that really got them in.
Well, I think there are three factors to look at. First of all, I think they were 15-1 in midweek games. That included wins over TCU right here, Wichita State right here as well. Those are two teams that are in regional play. They also beat Tennessee earlier in the year, who's an SEC team. I believe they beat Houston, too, who's in the Rice regional. So they beat a lot of quality teams during midweek games. The other thing, too, is Baylor, who the team they were sort of fighting with to get in. They took 2 or 3 from Baylor as well. So they had a lot of tiebreakers. Plus, they're playing well in the Big 12 tournament, which is, the NCAA will look at how you're playing toward the end of the year. So I think those were the factors that really helped them get into the regional play.
Now let's look towards the regional because they go out to Arizona State. They play Vanderbilt in the first game. There's also Stony Brook out there. Tell me about their chances and tell me about Vanderbilt and getting through this regional.
Well, Arizona State obviously is one of the best 3 or 4 teams in the country. They're hosting a super regional for a reason. They have a tremendous hitting lineup 1 through 9. That's going to be a challenge getting them out. Can't tell you a lot about Stony Brook. I know that they won the American East postseason tournament to qualify. And Vanderbilt is a team that finished, I believe, 4th in the SEC in the division of the SEC. And they're a team that has a lot of talent. They were a number 1 seed. I think they were the number 1 overall seed in the regional play last year. And they have a lot of guys coming back. So that's going to be a really tough game for Oklahoma. But they won a lot of tough games last week. So it's going to be very similar to what we saw in the Big 12.
Wrapping this up, but I think one thing that obviously prepares them for the postseason is when you play in the Big 12 and you play in the pool they just played in, you're not going to go up against 3 better teams than they played in the Big 12 tournament.
Here's the deal. They're stepping down in competition, really, to be honest, from what they were in because not only were they in the Big 12 tournament pool, but they were in a pool with Texas and Missouri who are playing really well, and they're both 2 seeds in regionals. And then Texas A&M is hosting a regional, and they were the regular season champs. So essentially you had a 1, 2 2s, and a 3. Which you won't obviously see in a substitute Texas and insert Stony Brook, and that's what you have this weekend.
All right, well, that's going to wrap up this analysis, and you're going to have to stay tuned to the Oklahoman and newsok.com for the rest of the week to figure out what the Sooners are doing in Arizona. Also, Oklahoma State will be hosting the regional in Stillwater.